40% of kids saying they hate school. We have to find a way in education to bring those kids to school. We got to figure out a way to make them enjoy it, at least just for a little bit.
What we're trying to do is teach kids how to learn.
Some kids have never had success in school. You put them in front of a video game, they find success. Now I have a voice. Now people are listening to me.
I think people think we're teaching video games.
Right.
And that is absolutely not what we're doing.
You can bring this into a building with your teachers, and it's innovative to where the students are going to be a part of something that is just bigger than them.
Through gaming concepts, I really feel like I have even a stronger connection with students than I've had in the past 10 years of teaching.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Gaming Concepts podcast. It is a beautiful, sunny day here in Kansas City, and we got some guests and other hosts all around the country, and excited to dive in, learn about one another, and see how esports is changing the lives of kids across this wonderful country. Here with my very favorite host, co-host, Mike Russell. Mr. Russell, how you doing this afternoon?
Thank you, Trevor. I am doing well. We do not have a sunny day in central Kansas. It is raining and cloudy. So
does that mean it's coming this way? Is it?
Maybe. I am grateful for the rain. We have not had much down here, so the wheat needs the rain. So, and I say wheat because I want to put the stress on the wheat and not think it's wheat something else. So,
yes, there is that too in Kansas.
We do have that, but I always want to be clear when I say wheat. So it always makes me think of that Wheat Thin commercial. Have you ever seen that? How he says wheat thins?
I have
it's just weird.
We used to have wheat thins growing up.
Yeah, it's like
maybe that should be our ending question. Your favorite childhood snack?
Oh, okay, that's good. That gives everybody time to think about it. I like it.
Favorite childhood snack, because that's wheat thins for me. That's wheat thins for me. So
yeah, no,
anyway,
we are just working away on these books. This is we definitely started to put some time into these next two books, and speech is pretty much there. We've got a couple more things to wrap up, and then we'll have that shoutcasting book done here pretty soon. So
ready to rock and roll for the fall.
Good. Yep, everything will be ready. So
that's cool. I tell you, it's fun when I get to talk to folks about what shoutcasting and my mind's going blank, of course. Streaming, what those two things are, and I'm like, basically, if you have a student that's looking at their phone, they're probably watching one of the two, and maybe a combination of both. There's some streamers and shoutcasters, and they're like, oh, that's what they're doing all the time. I think Mr. Beast in his early days, so not as much anymore, but a younger Mr. Beast, Mr. Beast.
Most folks will probably know Ninja. That's probably the streamer that they know probably the best for. I mean, he was the one that was kind of like just popped right on the scene and started making $10 million a month or whatever it was. And
see, my kids love a guy called Matt Pat.
Yeah,
Matt Pat. They watch a lot of Matt Pat, although he does a little bit of everything now. He's not just gaming, but he does all these theory shows.
That's something that we've kind of noticed over as we work through these books is streamers are starting to diversify their content because it's not all about gaming anymore. I mean, we have people who do gaming, but they also have another stream where they do cooking, or they do crocheting, or they go fishing, or they do updates for different things. So
totally,
they're learning to, not just capture, because that audience of gamers is very crowded. So if you can diversify and look at other subject matter and capture new audience members into another channel, you're probably doing things right. So
yeah, well, that makes sense as you say that, because that's what this Matt Pat has done, from doing the streaming shoutcasting piece to, he calls it game theory and movie theory and film theory and food theory. So he goes through like upcoming movies, and he'll have these theories of what's going to happen in the movie, or what's the next pathway of Marvel movies. And they're silly, but the thing is, as a dad, I want content that I can trust my kids to watch. And so that's one of the things I'm always looking for as a dad with 12, 10, and 7-year-old. Is it something that I can trust is going to be appropriate for my kids to watch? Because I don't want to have to sit there with them all the time. Go ahead.
That's a good point. That's one of the things when we create these books is, we do integrate videos and use different resources, but we spend a lot of time, Christy and I spend a lot of time watching videos, about a specific piece of content that we want to capture or explain. and sometimes it's just better to do through video, especially since that's where most kids get their information anymore. And then we usually follow up with some text. But the problem we run into with most videos is you'll find an amazing, 5-6 minute video, and at the very end, it's like they drop the F-bomb or something.
Yeah.
It's like, well, can't use that for school. So then you basically have to restart, watch another video. So we spend a lot of time, sadly, watching YouTube and other video things and reading articles. And
Well, that's what you do all day. You just peruse YouTube.
well, so that's very true. A lot of days that is what I've spent my time doing, and that's just research, and that's just part of it. But we are working more. Alex has actually been very helpful and continues to be super helpful with this, but building our own videos and creating our own content so that we don't have to rely on YouTube or any other resources for that. So we can start to create our own content and make specifically what we want the video to say. And so, yeah, we're super appreciative. And Bubba over at Varsity Esports and Gaming has really started to help us out a little bit too. So anyway, just a little bit about the process of writing those books and how that all goes. So it's definitely a process. There's definitely a way to do it, and our way is not the best for everybody, but it works for us. So
Yep, there you go. Well, that's kind of a good transition, because we're going to talk to some gamers here and some esports coaches that are joining us. So we have two very special guests with us, all the way from Uniondale High School in New York. We have Mr. Sanjay Singh with us today and Mr. Elmer Flores. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the Gaming Concepts podcast. So good to have you guys on today.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
All right. So just real quick about these two fellas that are joining us. So Sanjay Singh, he's an economics teacher at Uniondale High School. When we talked just a few weeks ago, he was on the way to Columbia to do some wildlife biology work. And so definitely some diversity of work that he does. Diamond 4 in League of Legends, Grandmaster in Overwatch, over 500 days in World of Warcraft. Those sound like big numbers, and when Mike gets a big grin on his face, that tells me there's something quite special about the accomplishments of Sanjay. Sanjay, tell us a little more about yourself, and then we'll jump over to Elmer here.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I'm in my third year of teaching. Gaming has been a huge part of my life from when I was a child to today. It was my first career. I worked overseas, I worked in esports. And it's really, really fun for me to apply the systems and the things that I learned in Korea to our high school level esports, and to see that level of growth. And then as an economics teacher, I love implementing game theory into our esports, teams. It's a very holistic kind of thing, and I feel very, very lucky to have the job that I have and to be able to work with our students.
That's awesome. Glad to have you. Look forward to diving not only your former background, but also the work you're doing in New York for kids. We have Mr. Elmer Flores with us today. He's a 16-year veteran of special education there at Uniondale as well. I imagine you've probably had some other experiences with that, and a little bit of Call of Duty player here and there. So Elmer, good afternoon. Tell us a little more about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a special education teacher. I fell in love with the video gaming in general because of my father when I was younger. I was also a special education student. I had difficulties with literacy, and I don't know if you remember, the 6-bit era, most of the audio, the voice acting wasn't there. It was mostly text. So I spent a lot of time watching my dad play and then trying to figure out how to read what was going on. And then I invested a lot of my time reading magazines like Tips and Tricks and Nintendo Power.
yeah,
And I really advocate for video gaming in education, because it brought me a whole new world of literacy. So that's really where Uniondale Esports came from, is my desire to try to bring gaming into the school, which is what we do now.
awesome.
Well,
You need to play some World of
go ahead,
Warcraft, Elmer. You'll do a lot of reading in that, especially put the Fast Quest text on. Yeah, you'll be doing a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Sanjay has done a lot of reading, I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. I could probably recite half of the quests at this point.
Yeah, I bet so.
I might need some coaching, some one-on-one coaching. I can't get off the boat half the time with World of Warcraft. That tells you my skill level. I had a friend. It's actually so my PTO president's husband in California. He said, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, I see you're on. Where are you?" I was like, "I don't know where I am." He goes, "Just give me a minute. I'll find you." And all of a sudden he shows up. I'm like, "Oh, well, hey there. How you doing?" And he like was guiding me through how to play the game. I'm like, "Oh, it's embarrassing," but sometimes you need a
No,
go.
we
You need
all
a
got to
guide. You
start
need a
somewhere.
guide.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially to dive into a game like that, you know, you need a guide.
It was way more complex than I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I was
it's
expecting, but
20 years of game development, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a lot to catch up on.
yes. Well, tell us about kind of what you guys are doing at Uniondale. I mean, you guys have had a program now for a few years, and I believe Elmer, you kind of launched that program. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so it all really began because I actually wanted to study a little bit more about educational technology and implementing that into my teaching. So I went to Malloy. It's called university now. Before it was called Malloy College. And I started, during that pathway, and I started looking into a theory called gamification, and then that is using game-based skills, I guess, in your classroom and teaching using that, right? So as I started exploring more further into this, I ran into esports, and I was just like, what is this, and me being very competitive, I was like, this seems so cool, like I need to bring this into our school. So the procedure was pretty hefty. It took me a year to just, do all the paperwork and do all the research behind it, and actually get the school on board with it. And I'm not gonna lie, the first year of our esports program was not easy, because there was so much that I needed to learn in regards to coaching and organizing and putting it together and running all these teams. It was very, very difficult. But I got into the swing of things, and then in the time that we've had this program, this is the 4th year in the program, we've found success. We've won trophies. We've taken the kids on trips to different local LAN events. We even took our kids to Disney World to compete in a national championship over there. So it was so far it's been so good, and now we have kids that are actually actively still going to college and competing now in college esports. So it's, for me, I found it very successful, and I'm glad that it's still thriving within our school. And then this year we were fortunate enough to get Mr. Singh to join our team, so I'm really happy about that.
So he's a late addition to the team then. So after you figured it all out, Elmer,
Exactly.
then Sanjay
Yeah,
shows
that's
up.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, once
He
all
just
the
kinda
hard work is
swooped
done, I just
in.
skated right in. Exactly.
Love it,
And
love it.
it's a little bit of it's, I guess, serendipitous is the word you would use. The place where Elmer started his, kind of high school esports journey, Malloy University. We have now 3 of our former players who will be playing for them next year. One that graduated last year, Abner. Then we have Ernest and Yadis. All 3 of them will be playing for Malloy University in 2024, I guess, next year.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's an incredible thing. Like, you couldn't even write the story if you wanted to.
Am I correct to remember, Sanjay, last we had talked that you have more kids going on esports scholarships than traditional sports scholarships? Was that you that told me that?
Yeah, that's currently it looks like the trajectory is that we have more students who are receiving esports scholarships this year than traditional athletic scholarships.
If that's
Oh,
not a
that's
testament
awesome.
to the value of it right there.
Yeah,
awesome.
100%. And now that there's a college system that's in place, that's, it really, at the end of the day, once the money's there, then people start to care. And now that they're offering scholarships, I mean, everybody here is, I'm sure, noticed the uptick in high school esports interest. And it's great. It's great that they're giving students a pathway from high school to continue to do this and getting them free college along the way. It's incredible.
Definitely. Well, we did an event here in Kansas City a couple weeks ago, and we had 3 different colleges that were like, yes, we'd love to come be a part of it and do recruiting at it, because they're building their programs. They need more kids. They need more kids to get in the programs. And once they get them there, now they're starting to build out like collegiate pathways, scholastic pathways for them in college. So teaching them the marketing, the management side of things, and just trying to help them see that esports, like you guys know, it's so much more than just playing the game.
100%. Yeah, could not agree more.
Definitely.
We
Well,
have
we've
a
added
li-
a guest with us, Christy Custer. Welcome. You're a little bit late to the show. We won't hold that against you. So
Actually, I'm early. I didn't mean me and my technical skills. Mike had said Sanjay and Elmer are on the podcast today, and I said I want to come, and he sent me the link, and I didn't realize it would just let me right in. I thought I would go to a waiting room, so I apologize for just bursting into the classroom, but I wanted to meet you guys. We have not been able to meet formally yet.
Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. I know we've exchanged a few emails. It's nice to finally put a face to the name.
Well, I didn't exactly I wasn't 100% prepared, because I would have dressed up a little bit more, but I thought I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Sometimes you just got to go. Sometimes you just got to jump.
Exactly.
So I'm so excited that you guys are here, and to hear your stories, you guys, is just amazing that you are providing these opportunities for your students. So thank you for doing that and getting it started, because it always takes a champion in the school. That's the biggest question that we are asked, is what do I need? What do I need to get an esports program started? And I just say, you need a champion. An adult.
You need a Mr. Flores. Yeah, exactly.
You need an Elmer.
But I also want to give thanks to your organization too for donating the PCs to our program, because at first, when I first started, we had nothing. We had literally the little cafeteria that they gave us the space, and the kids just magically came in playing with their Switch systems and everything like that. So you guys donating those PCs to us definitely helped our program a lot. So really appreciate it. And we're still in the process of setting up our esports lab. So once that's complete, we're definitely going to share photos with you guys.
That's awesome.
But it was like a complete game changer. Like the kids built the computers themselves, which was an incredible experience. But when they saw wow, we're getting this is for us, these high-end computers are for us. They saw the AMD cards and all that other stuff, and it added a level of legitimacy and a level of confidence, and oh man, we better take this seriously. They're investing this into us, so we better show up. It completely changed our program. We're in the process of setting it up still, our esports lab. But yesterday, one of our kids was using one of the computers, and he was blown away. He's he played on a Mac computer. He was getting 20 frames, and now he's sitting on this computer getting 170 frames, and he's this is unreal. My eyes hurt. I've never played games at this level. It was fun.
Well, I want to jump off a little. Sorry. Trevor and Mike know me well enough to know I'm just going to go with it.
I got a feeling Sanjay and Elmer can hang with wherever you're going here, Christy. So let her rip. Let her rip.
No, the reason I need to ask this question is because we bring this up a lot about, so many people think this is about video games, but I often say this is about equity and access for kids, because the story that I tell is my high school son at the time, for Christmas, he wanted a gaming PC, and we were able to provide that for him. And, he'd been down in the basement in his bedroom, holed up in his bedroom for 3 days. And I go bursting into his room, and I was like, "What are you doing in here?" And he's like, "I'm coding a program that mines Bitcoin." And I said, first of all, I hope if that's not legal, Alex, edit that out. If that's not legal, we'll edit that out. But
he's good.
Is first of all, my son has never taken a coding class. And second of all, he graduated last year. Bitcoin was not part of his finance class. And so those skills that he was using and he was exploring was because of the opportunity he had with the computer that he got. And so can you talk a little bit about that for your students and especially the STEM careers? And my son went on to military intelligence and is going to go to college now for supply chain logistics. Those are some high paying jobs. So can you talk a little bit about that and the opportunities and just exposing kids to this type of technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Elmer, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first. Go ahead.
All right. So like, this is something that I'm really into. Like, I'm an economics teacher. I'm a math nerd. And if you can explain the way that I teach our teams is, and specifically, like, I'm thinking of the League of Legends team, is I'm teaching them really high level mathematical concepts, things like min-max theory, multicollinearity, things that you don't typically learn in high school. And I'm teaching them to build regression models, and it's only a tool to get better at the game. You don't even need to talk about the math and the theory. And look, this is how we can figure out what the best champion is. Let's compare win rates in North America and Korea. Let's look for what factors are pushing win rates in Korea up for certain champions. We're trying to look for what's called extingent factors, right? Things that are going to raise certain percentages for whatever reason that maybe isn't relevant to why we're looking at it. But they're doing high level statistical analysis on League of Legends characters. We're doing it with pick ban rates, win rates. We're doing it with the amount of theory crafting, which I'm sure it's something that Mike is also very familiar with a World of Warcraft background. There's so much educational value in that. I do focus on the video games. I am not a if you had fun, you won kind of guy. I'm super competitive. I tell my students, like, I never want to lose. And I'm sure you don't want to lose. And as long as you're proud of your performance, that's a win. But we can do all these other things to get an advantage over our opponents, right? Like, I'm sure that our opponents aren't sitting there for 3 hours looking at graphs and champion win rates and having these team meetings, trying to figure out what the best way to play the game is. So if you can, it requires a pretty high level of understanding of these games, but our students have that in spades. Yeah. It's a language that oftentimes the adults don't speak, but they're fluent in. And in the same way, like I was saying to Trevor the last time we spoke, like, if you could record the comms when we're playing, it's incredible. They're speaking a different language. All right, push mid. We need prio bot lane. Dragon's coming up in a minute. Let's shove, get a plate. We'll invade Raptors. So then we can get a pick. We can get the power play. Then we can go run to Barret. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're thinking in a different way, and it's not traditional academics. But video games can be highly academic. If you take them seriously, they will be. There are thousands of people who are doing math every day, trying to balance these games and create the most fair and equitable experience. And if you can, impart in your students the value in understanding game theory, these kids are learning math and enjoying it and not even knowing that they're learning math. It's if you take it really seriously and you accept it for what it is, yes, it's video games, but we can take this to an insane level. That's been my greatest success in, like, getting students, kind of tricking them almost into learning like these high level concepts without actually, sitting them in a math class.
Sanjay, we like to not call that tricking them. We like to call that purposeful play.
Yeah, purposeful play. Sure, absolutely, 100%.
No, you're absolutely
definitely.
Right.
I'm curious.
Chocolate covered broccoli is how we refer to it.
Yeah, there you go. Chocolate covered broccoli.
So Elmer, as a special ed teacher, you're part of what you do every day is modify and accommodate. How have you taken your background in special ed and that knowledge base and that skill set to the esports space as well? Have you seen that transfer? Because I was on a call yesterday with the school, and all the students in there, and the gal described the students as neurodivergence. I knew exactly what she meant when she said that. She says, how does this work for my students? And my response is, it does. It just totally does, because any student has the ability to, for the most part, play games and interact and have that communication. But what have you been able to do with your background of special education to ensure that the kids are able to hang with what Sanjay's talking about, or be a part of that? Because that's pretty high level stuff. But not
Oh yeah,
every kid's going to
definitely.
get that. So how do you kind of make that transition piece with your kids?
So it's actually very easy, because when it comes to gaming, I mean, especially our esports team is very inclusive to everybody, right? So we have males, we have females, we have ENL students, we have special education students, we have, you know, jocks, we have everybody that they're very eager to just come in and play and share tips and tricks. We even have alumni that, you know, have graduated that come back and volunteer to coach and help out with our team. Talking about students that are now in pathways for computer science, programming, and they come back and share their knowledge with our students, and you know, they pick up on it and they just flourish in this environment where they can socialize. I remember when, I think it was my first year, and I thought, this reminds me of the old school arcades where we used to wait, you know, and play. You know, we would have our quarters, put it on the arcade machine, on the cabinet, and then wait our turn to play. And that's exactly what's going on with our kids in our group meetings, and they're just loving it. But all our kids can hang. Most of our Smash team consists of mostly special education students. So they are thriving in what they do, and they're, you know, analyzing what they need to do, you know, when it comes to ledge trapping, and you know, what specials they need to do and what combos, and it's working for them. So we had no issues with that whatsoever, and all the kids get along well. You know, there's, you know, no segregation at all whatsoever. They all respect each other mutually, and they have fun together.
That's awesome.
And
That's
if
stuff
I
more
could just
people need to hear
piggyback,
about. Yeah.
Huh?
no, I was going to say, if
Go
I could
for it.
just piggyback off what
Oh
you
yeah, go
said,
ahead.
like we have a student who at the beginning of this year did not really speak that much English. You know, he was
Mhm.
at the, you know, lower level of English development. And if you talk to him today, he's fluent. Like, and you can ask this student, he openly says, like, the reason my English got so good is because I'm playing League of Legends with this team 8 or 12 hours a day. He literally will tell you, I learned more playing League of Legends than in school, because he's learning from his peers.
Yeah.
And like, he's one of the most like brilliant, kind, always smiling. Like, it's beautiful that he found his, you know, kind of tribe amongst our group. And he's like a brilliant kid. Like, I don't know if he would have had that same social opportunity had it not been for gaming. And all the kids loved him immediately
Mhm.
because he's sick at the game. He was one of the best and still one of the best players on the game.
Yep.
So it didn't even matter that they didn't speak English. They spoke the same language. They were talking League. It's the same reason that Korean players can come to North America at the pro level and play here, because they don't really, you're not speaking English, you're speaking League of Legends. And they, whether he knew it or not, he ate the chocolate covered broccoli and learned English, hooked on League of Legends phonics style. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Well,
like
in
that
my
he's
opinion,
good.
that's the best way to learn English.
Yeah.
League style.
Exactly.
You need to copyright that phrase, Sanjay. Learn an English league style. That's
Yeah, there
awesome.
you go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nice.
really.
That sounds like a new book, Mike. Maybe that's
There we
a
go.
new book. I keep
Yeah.
trying to inject how we're going to teach English. Well, I want that English credit in there, and maybe that's what it is.
My job is
Well-
to make the book fun, and I'm like, you can't put English in there. It won't be fun. No matter how you do it, it's not going to be fun.
Former
That's
English
hilarious.
teacher here. Well, and you know, as a former English teacher, and I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I don't play video games very often. I don't love video games. I don't have a favorite video game. But I have a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And so video games and screen time and all of that stuff, you know, that is a big part of my life. And so as educators, what is your advice maybe to, because I tell schools all you need is a champion. It doesn't even have to be a champion that loves video games. What are those skills or what are some things that you have learned and now in retrospect, you might have done differently with starting? Can you give some advice maybe for those people that are just getting started and they're like, well, I don't know how to play League of Legends, or, what's advice for them?
I think we should let Mr. Flores start with this. This is my first year being part of the club, so I don't know if I can offer veteran, advice like Mr. Flores, but I'm happy to chime in. But Elmer, why don't you take the lead on this one?
I mean, I think when it comes to creating an esports program in general is looking at the demographic and population of the students, right? You want to cater your team or your club around what the students want to play. Very, very important. So setting up, a survey that can be distributed to the population of the students to get an idea of what the students are interested is a great way to start. Because not all kids are going to be interested in all the games that are available in esports, right? For example, Rocket League is a very, very popular game. But I noticed in the population that we have, a lot of our kids weren't really interested in playing that, right? One of the bigger ones that they were interested in was Smash Brothers when I first started out. And then we had a couple kids that were interested in Call of Duty and trying to figure out if that was something that we could actually do at the school. But then also having it could be an advisor, a teacher, any staff member that's very motivated and trying to push this program through, right? If you, as let's say, you find a person that's interested, right? Or if a director decides or administrator decides, oh, I'm just going to give this to somebody. Somebody might not be as motivated to actually do the work, right? I mean, it's easier if you could find somebody that will volunteer and say, hey, this is something that I'm interested in. This is what I want to do. And having somebody to, be open-minded and fully support and back it up, right? Obviously, when it comes to video games, we need hardware as well. So making sure your team has a budget to actually buy all the product and software that you need. Even though a lot of the esports software is free, but not all of it is, right? You still need some of the stuff like PCs. You need, gaming consoles, and some of the games that, aren't as easily to get. But I think those were like the three things that I would say that programs should really take a look at and take into consideration when starting a program. What do you think, Mr. Singh?
No, I agree with you 110%. I think if I could just, I think it breaks down into two categories. You can definitely have an esports club where you have a lot of academic value and not be ultra competitive. Or you can, you try to be a competitive team, and I think that requires a lot more commitment, and a lot more, game knowledge. And I would say if you don't have that, find somebody that does. There's websites you can hire coaches. I would say reach out to a college, and if there's a local college near you, I guarantee you that they probably have higher level players than your high school students. And they're usually, in my experience, really eager to play against and kind of coach with you high school students. And it also it's kind of like a cheat code. You develop these relationships with these colleges and universities, and they get to know your players. And, they for example, one of our students, they didn't even watch his game tape. They didn't ask for any of that. They were just we've played against them, 5-8 times before. They know who he is, and they were hey, we really like this kid. What's he thinking about for college next year? And that's sort of how he got that scholarship, was just the,
so
relationship that we had built.
Character, personality based, and maybe necessarily gameplay based.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah, probably.
Interesting. That's cool. Well, I think that's what
I'd say. The other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the other thing that I just thought of is it's a lot to manage. And Mr. Flores, Elmer does most of that. To be honest with you, I kind of focus on the teams. He does a lot of the administrative stuff, dealing with it, our admin, dealing with scheduling and this and that and billing and so forth and so on. I think having reliable students that you trust to kind of delegate tasks to is another way to like make it not feel like such a burden. Like our team, like I have 2 team captains for the League of Legends team. When we're getting ready for a game, you know, I message them. I say, double check with everybody. Everyone will be there, you know, kind of like take attendance. They'll message each player individually, tell them the time. Can you come? You know, can you be there? Then they'll report back to me. All right, everyone's good. We're set, 4 o'clock, or, you know, whatever time our match is. And then it, you know, I just kind of show up and I'm, you know, we're ready to go. Same thing. Like, all right, guys, we're going to practice tonight, 6 o'clock, 6 to 9. We're scrimming whatever university. Make sure everybody's there. That's all I have to say. I don't have to, you know, hunt down each kid and make sure they're there. Our captains do that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say after you mentioned that we've been tasked with finding leaders within our students and giving them the opportunity to flourish, right? So we give them these opportunities to actually, you know, start practices, you know, call lineups and all that stuff, and they've thrived. Which is very, very exciting for me to see, because that's what we want it to be. We want it to be more hands off of us and give it to them. That's why we even have an executive board too that, you know, helps in like plans on events. They also decide what teams we're gonna have for the following seasons. As of this year, we've had 8 teams. So you can imagine how many leaders we have to find amongst those kids. And the constant communication, you know, we keep open. I know some school districts probably aren't on board with Discord, but Discord has been a big help for us in managing and organizing our teams and helping us set up practices and schedules and stuff like that. So important, very important, is finding those leaders in your students.
You know, it's in one of the things that, and this is even earlier today, talking to a school that's wanting to get on board. He's like, yeah, we're going to play all 5 games. We're going to play 4 days a week. And I'm like, and it's one person. I'm like, I think you need to pump the brakes here a little bit, buddy. Like, I think you're biting off more than you realize. And you guys highlight the importance of having kind of that tag team approach. And it's the same. I coached high school wrestling for years and years. And you always had someone that was more of like your kind of your administrative stuff. Like, and oftentimes even for us, there's the head coach. Like, the head coach took care of uniforms and scheduling and the buses and all those parent issues. And then a lot of times our assistant coaches were the ones that did the bulk of like actual teaching and training piece. And it sounds a little bit like that's kind of what you guys have done. And so, Elmer, you're able to just to make sure Sanjay and others, I'm sure you do as well, they can just go coach. And then you take care of all that other back end stuff that's so important, because those are things that will break a team. Is if that stuff's not taken care of correctly, if you don't have your programs and your scheduling, your organization, no one wants to be a part of something that doesn't run smoothly. So.
Yeah, and that's why I want to give credit to Sanjay. I mean, he's literally put, you know, the League of Legends team like together and molded them into like what we want to model the rest of our teams after, right? We've had success in Smash, but this League of Legends team is just super like successful, and they're thriving so well, and they gel so well together. And it's so sad to see that a couple of our seniors are leaving this year, but we're also happy for them because they're going on to the next part of their life where they'll continue in esports in college. So we're really
every
happy
one of
about
them.
that.
Yeah, every one of them is continuing to play. I can't not say that. It makes me so happy. Like literally all 3 of them will continue to play in college. That's like, to me, my greatest achievement with esports so far.
Well, I'd like to jump back to something that you guys mentioned, and we kind of skated over, but and the reason once again is because this is one of the questions we always get. You guys had mentioned that one of the games that your kids really like to play was Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. How did that turn out? Because we get a lot of questions about, you know, first-person shooter games, and can they play them? Can they not play them? Are they good for kids? Are they bad for kids? What's just your guys' opinion on that? And what did you guys end up doing?
I remember that decision actually kind of got made for us because Activision, the publisher of Call of Duty, ended up pulling it. They
yes, I remember that. You're right.
From the high school level. So, you know, that was kind of our option to play Call of Duty was gone. But in general, like another really popular game in our school is Valorant. It is a first person shooter. So like there are a lot of people who will tell you that, you know, kids shouldn't play it, this, that, and the other thing. And I would say just look at the research, right? the research does not support that position at all. You know, violent, as crazy as it sounds, there's hard research on this. It's not a conspiracy or whatever, but there is hard data that backs up the fact that violent video games do not equate to desensitization to actual violence. And on the contrary, it's funny, like, to put together a budget for this program, you know, our esports program, I wrote this whole proposal about the cognitive and educational benefits and value of esports. It's all backed up by research. You know, I cited all the way through. It was, you know, like a proper research paper.
Yep.
The truth is, it's not really a debate. I would say just, you know, look it up. You know,
if you read the research, it's not a debate.
Yeah, which is, you know, such a cop out to say, look it up, do your research, whatever. Like, there really is no other way for me to, you know, describe it. It's been this theory that violent video games or video games in general are somehow bad for students or bad for their, you know, ability to learn, or it impedes their ability to learn or makes them more prone to violence is completely false. And I would just encourage anybody who has that position to look into it with an open mind. And if, again, like I said, if you think about games in a more serious way and you can look past the fact that it's, you know, cartoony, there is a tremendous amount of academic value that can be had from video games and esports.
Yeah, and if you meet any of our students that actually compete in our teams, none of them show any signs of aggression whatsoever.
Actually,
they're the most
they're the
friendly and nicest
sweetest.
kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and
Yeah, I need to get go ahead, Christy.
Well, I just think that sometimes too the misconception is that, you know, and in all seriousness, you know, as an administrator, it's a fear that, you know, what if something tragic happens in my school, and I don't want anything to happen tragically in my school. And, you know, what I often say is, when you look at those terrible, tragic, you know, shootings that happen in schools, a lot of times the commonality there is lack of connection with that person. And really what we're trying to do with esports is provide a connection. And I think people forget that, you know, what is the root of that person, you know, going in and doing that horrendous act. And a lot of times it's that they don't have that connection to the community or the school.
And that's a great point that you mentioned, because if you look at a lot of our kids, I say majority of them are special education students, and they don't have like an after school activity that they could go to after school where they could connect with their peers amongst, you know, the rest of the school. So I feel like a lot of the time our kids are now connecting with a group of kids they would have never ever met before, right? So we have honor kids, special education students, you know, like I said, it's inclusive. Everybody's meeting each other, and they found almost like a second home within our school where they could compete with others and have fun in a safe environment.
Yeah. Well, there's a school just, and I won't tell the name, but it's just a little bit east of you guys, that they're starting a whole high school program. They had 80 plus kids involved, but then the kids found out what games they were playing. It was only going to be Rocket League, and they're like, oh, that's all we get to play. And so they all left. Like it absolutely killed the interest. And so all these kids that were going to be at school with a coach, getting that community, are now back home, isolated by themselves potentially. And so that's the conversation we had of, let me connect you with some other people on Long Island and some other people in New York that are actively playing the variety of games, so you can hear from other administrators and other coaches and teachers and parents about the good it's doing for the kids.
Cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Trevor, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I've heard you, you know, when we first met at the Western Suffolk BOCES thing, I heard, and you've mentioned it before actually in our last conversation, that you were a principal that was not necessarily like a pro esports principal. What was kind of like that turning point for you? What was there, like a single thing that you heard or a piece of information, like, you know, what kind of turned the corner for you on esports?
One of them's in the room. And actually, it wasn't even hearing it from Christy. It was hearing a story from Kristen. And so actually, it was a year ago today,
Wow.
that I learned about
amazing.
esports. I was in Washington, D.C. I just won a Principal of the Year award. And I was at this
That's
event
amazing.
in Washington, D.C.
I know.
And because I know, because I have a journal, I keep a daily journal. I look back, I was like, oh, that's tomorrow. This was last night. But Kristen, and she was not necessarily a gamer either. Like she's a middle-aged woman. Like that gaming's not her thing, but she goes, Trevor, you need to hear the stories of these kids who are just coming through the woodwork to be a part of the program. And as she described the kids, I was picturing Abigail and I was picturing Riley and I was picturing these students in my building that I've never been able to connect with. And I'm like, there it is. Like that was the piece I was totally missing. And then I remembered back to previously, like it had been buried in my head. I had this Riley boy, he had just punched through a screen in the special ed room. And so he got brought down to my office and he had an esports jersey on. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what is that? I probably said goofy jersey or something. Like I was like, what do you wear? And he goes, oh, it's my esports jersey. I'm like, what is esports? This is like a year before all of this. And he goes, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, man. I'm glad you got a part of a team. And looking back, that changed our relationship. Like all of a sudden he saw me as like a trusted ally within the school. And so it's like all these pieces were coming together. I'm like, oh, that's the connector that I've been missing. Like that's the thing that I've been missing out on. But also my childhood, my parents were pretty much like, you're going to hell if you play video games. So like I had my own personal baggage I had to work through. Right. And then I hear Christy talk about the story of going down and seeing her son, like, why don't you go outside and shoot hoops? And then he was saying something to the extent of, or why don't you quit playing video games? And he said, well, if I was outside shooting hoops, would you care, Mom? And you're like, well, no, that's what I want you to do. Well, here I am talking to my friends. Here I am communicating. And so it's just little things like that it's like it flipped the switch to go, oh, there's something here that I was totally ignoring because of my own baggage and my own like biases.
Right. But no, that's really interesting that it was kind of the more social emotional aspect that showed you, kind of the value of esports.
Totally. Sanjay, mine was, it was so one-sided for me because I was the principal at the alternative school. And I was
okay.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that. So I was
I didn't.
Yep. And so I had been at that school for 20 years. And so, a lot of your students were our students also. And mine was 100% attendance. That's all I cared about. That was our laser sharp focus at our school, was attendance. And I firmly believe that if I could get the kids to school, the teachers are so awesome, because teachers are so awesome, that the teachers would, transform their lives. I mean, I truly believe that about teachers, that if I can't get them to school, I can't, the teachers can't transform their lives. So my only objective as a high school, or my main objective, my one-sided, this is my big hairy thing, it was attendance. And when Mike talked about video games, the light, I knew that this is going to bring kids to school. That's all I needed to know, is this, and that's all I cared about. I didn't know what they were going to do once they got there. That was Mike's job because he was the teacher, but I just thought, if we can implement this in school, I don't even know what it's going to look like, but I know this is going to excite kids, and let Mike take it from there, and that's what I love about esports is, at your guys' school, it looks different than it was at the alternative school in Wichita, Kansas, or, out in California. It looks different everywhere. And, basketball looks like basketball. And there's one way to play basketball. And there's one, it rarely, right, the rules rarely change. But esports, I mean, it can look so different everywhere. And it's so easy to individualize it. And I mean, that's why I don't love esports, but I love esports programs, because it's, like you guys said, it's so inclusive, and, pretty much the barrier for entry is pretty low on it.
Right. That's amazing. Did you guys all work in the same district?
I worked so Christy was my principal. She was the one who hired me. And this is where Gaming Concepts started, is we started to teach it at our school, and then people found out about it, and it kind of just blew up from there. So that's kind of how this whole thing started. We started to compete with High School Esports League, and we got to know them, and they figured out we were doing this, and they said, hey, we'd like to see if you guys can we can use this to put on our website. And then Microsoft found out about it, and off we went to the races. So no,
That is amazing. That's so cool. And
Yeah.
Trevor
That's a
had
good
just shown
story.
me like the gaming concepts curriculum. Like I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't expect it to be that flushed out and that thorough and that like, well designed. The UI is beautiful. And I was interested in designing a similar kind of course that focused more on the math and theory. And like, yeah, I saw what you guys did, and it like expanded, the whole range of what I wanted to do. It was really, really impressive.
Yeah, we always tease we're the grandparents of esports in schools. This was like in 2016, which was like 1,000 years ago in real time. So,
that's it. Esports is ancient.
It's grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, we're the grandma and grandpa.
Ma Custer and Pa Russell. So.
Yeah, so that's our little joke. So, but well, I think okay. So I have to clarify a couple things. Sanjay, when you said you went to Columbia, I was thinking Columbia University, not Columbia the country. Just to clarify, I didn't.
Oh yeah, no,
I was
no worries.
Totally not on the right page there. I was like, okay.
Funny enough, I did go to college there, but that's not where I went to. That's not where I was on vacation.
Well, that's where my head went. Sorry, that's just random.
No need to apologize. All good.
And so then it was that was kind of fun. But then I heard you mention Korea, so I would love to. We don't have to do it on the podcast, but I would love to talk to you more about that, because that's like one of my dreams is to go there. I was a huge StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2 fan, and I'm I know all the Tasteless, Artosis, my heroes. I would love. They're from Kansas. Did you know that Tasteless is from Kansas?
Yes.
And so was his brother Day 9. Day 9 taught me how to play StarCraft 2. So I'm sure we can talk a long time about all
really
this
interesting.
So,
we definitely need to
go,
talk
and you guys
this.
can finish here.
World of Warcraft, esports. We might be new best friends.
No, I would talk about it all day. Chris, they don't give me somebody to talk to, because Christy doesn't want to talk about that, and I talk to her all day.
No, I could talk about it all day. Absolutely, I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Yep. So, but I think we are getting ready to wrap here. We got a few more minutes. But I mean, it's been so great having you guys on the show. I mean, just sharing all of your stories, and it's great for us to see, that this is expanding across the country, because it's obviously been a passion of ours for quite a while. Again, being in the esports world for as long as we have been, it's cool to see it start to expand across the nation and do all the, and see the results that we thought we would see, right? We didn't know what was going to happen, but it's amazing to see that professionals are taking this on, and passionate teachers like yourselves are doing this for their kids, because we know it's doing great things for kids. So, but I think we do have a final wrap-up question. Did we want to go with the snack? What's your favorite childhood snack question?
I think
we want to start with that.
Snack.
All right,
let's
start with Trevor.
Oh wow, Rice Krispie treats. Homemade
or packaged?
Homemade. Homemade.
Okay.
Homemade. Mama Gertzen.
Right.
Homemade.
How many marshmallows in the batch?
I don't know, but man, they're good. It's like I could
the
smell
recipe
it.
calls for 40, but I'm told 47
stretch
is the
them.
magic number.
Stretch it.
Oh, so good.
Oh man, I'm trying to cut sugar out now.
What's your favorite childhood snack?
Oh man, probably like Fruit by the Foot, or like Fruit Loops or something like that. I was a big cereal guy as a kid.
Yeah, I love it. Elmer, how about you?
I mean, my childhood isn't over, so I'm constantly snacking on Reese's peanut butter cup and anything associated with the ice cream of it. Oh my god, I love it. That's like my favorite.
Awesome,
love it.
Alex Herbie, our sage behind the stage, has shared that his favorite is zebra cakes. He likes zebra cakes. So
how about you, Mike?
Skating rink.
They are delicious. Christy Custer, what's your favorite childhood snack?
Well, this is an interesting turn of events. The favorite childhood snack, love it. It's ice cream. Absolutely, any kind of ice cream. Any kind except mint chocolate chip. I do not like mint chocolate chip.
I agree with you.
Weird.
I agree with you.
That's the best one.
That's
no, if you are a true ice cream person, for some reason you do not like mint chocolate chip ice cream, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
Mike?
Mine is probably Almond Joy, just mainly because of my grandparents when I would go over there, they always had everything stocked, so there was all kinds of stuff there. But Almond Joy is probably the thing I took the most pleasure in eating at the time. But like Elmer, I'm still a child, so I snack all the time on whatever I want.
This is true. This is true. Man, well, it's so good to have you guys, Sanjay and Elmer, on the podcast today, and I feel like we can go for another hour just talking, and hopefully an opportunity to do that again. And any final words of wisdom from anyone in the group?
Just thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it, and we appreciate everything that you guys do. In terms of promoting esports, and we're big fans. Anytime we could be a help, we're always happy.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for
Of course,
everything.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys can hang around once we stop the recording.
Wait, hold on. We forgot something important. I can't believe we
socials.
forgot this.
Socials.
Yes. How do we find you? Where do we get to you at? So just real quick around the horn here. If you use social media, where do we find you on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook? Just kind of share real fast where we can find you at.
For the Uniondale Esports, it's literally at Uniondale Esports on Instagram. You can also find me in my email, eforest1@uniondaleschools.org. We also have a website if they want to look it up. Just literally put it in Google, Uniondale Esports, and you'll probably find it there as well.
Doing it right now.
Cool. Christy?
Sanjay?
Or Sanjay?
No socials for me. I mean, if you want to contact me through the Uniondale Esports
Awesome.
page. If there's ever coaches out there that want advice or help on developing a practice schedule or drills, anything like that, I'd love to see esports become a bigger thing on Long Island and New York. So I'm always happy to help anybody that needs it.
Awesome.
Feel free to reach out.
We're planning a local esports event sometime in June. So if anybody wants to participate, just send us an email.
Yeah, Smash Tournament.
Yes.
Oh, sweet.
Cool.
Very cool.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Trevor Gertzen, not the Canadian hockey player, and Gertzen_edu on the Twitters.
And I am at Russ the Teach on Twitter and Michael Russell on LinkedIn.
There you go. All right.
I'm at KG Custer and Christy Custer on LinkedIn.
Got it. All right. And that's a wrap.